So our next, we had said that our first three guests are about history, and our final one is about healing. So our next guest is Denny S. Bryce, and she always makes sure that we include the S. And she said that's part of her brand. And one
Yeah,
time I
I
didn't,
did.
and she corrected me. So on the flyer, I had to get my graphics person to redo it because I don't do the flyer. So I never
But
forget now. I will never forget it. But
and
Denny,
now I have a whole bunch of new names up here because I'm through my university. But yeah, I'm Denny S. Bryce and
Denny S.
somebody
Bryce.
else too.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV and congratulations
Oh,
on your new book.
oh, thank you, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be here as always. It's because I've been here a couple of times before.
You have, and you're
Yeah,
always writing
yeah.
about history. And so I see your book behind you,
Yes,
Where the
ma'am.
False Gods Dwell. You have a copy. Okay, great, great. So you have a copy you can put close to the camera. It came out last week.
I'm shaking it.
So,
Yeah.
so it's new. Congratulations on the release.
Thank you,
And
thank you.
this book is about dance. So,
No, not quite about dance. It has a dancer in it.
okay,
Only, yeah, only because she was an inspiration for the storyline. Catherine
okay.
Dunham
So
back in
I misunderstood the. I knew it was
no
about
problem.
Catherine Dunham was the inspiration, and that's what
Yes.
she's known for. So I thought maybe the other people who you bring in were also in dance. So, but that's not necessarily the case. Okay, all
No,
right.
no. Yeah. But that's
Okay.
okay. That's okay. We get to everything that's going on in that book, and hopefully your viewers and listeners will get excited about it.
Okay, now which book is this for you? Number
Number
one.
six,
Number
number
six.
six in
Okay.
5 years. So
Okay.
thank you.
And I think you've been on the show for almost all of them.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
not the first one, but
First one was Wild Women in the Blues. And that
okay,
seemed
not that one, but the second one
okay. Okay. In the Face of the
was,
Sun.
yes, that one.
Mm,
hmm Um,
yep.
and then I know you had the one about Marilyn Monroe and Ella Fitzgerald. That was
Yes,
your
yes.
last
Had
book.
that. The last one was called the Trial of Mrs. Rhinelander, and it was, or it is, I don't have a copy nearby, but
hmm
inspired by a true story because, I like to dabble in the truth, and then in some cases go, sort of wild with the fiction. But in the Rhinelander story, it was already wild. The truth was wild. It you had 1925 New York um, situation where a young woman started dating a very wealthy man from, sort of up, upward mobile, sort of in the Rockefeller money kind of
hmm
situation. And then they date for a while, they get married, and then 2 weeks after they get married, after dating for a couple of years, he wants to get an annulment, or based on the fact that she never mentioned that she was black. And so from there, and this was front page news story in New York, across the country, same time as stories like the Stokes monkey trial and the murder in Chicago, Loeb and Lieb. I can't remember pronunciations, but bottom line was this was a big news story. Think of the New York Times and New York Post and New Amsterdam News being TMZ. Because that's the kind of energy they were bringing to this scandalous situation. And her family were immigrants from Britain, and she was in, I did my research, and up until she married this man, her census said she was white. And then it
Oh,
changed after that. It's an interesting story. It was interesting facts. I think I made it into an intriguing story because there was so much to work with. But that came out in 25. Yeah, that just came out in July or August of, I think, of last year. I think,
okay.
or did it come?
Wasn't
No,
the
I didn't
Marilyn
have
Monroe Ella book last year too? In
that
like in
was.
the beginning of the
Well,
year?
I had these books came out back to back to back.
Yes, they
Um,
did. That's why I
I
was.
think, I
I
think it was
That's
remember.
24.
definitely.
I
Mhm.
think it was 24. I don't think I had a book come out in 25. So,
Okay.
in 23, The Other Princess, which is my Victorian romance, but also um, historically accurate for the most part about Sarah Forbes Bonetta, and back in the 19th century, 1830s to 1860s, I think. And then Marilyn and Ella Fitzgerald's book that I
Okay.
co-wrote with Eliza Knight, that came out. So Other Princess came out in October. That book, Ella and Marilyn, came out in March of 24. And then the
Okay.
Rhinelander book came out in August of 24.
Mhm.
So I had
Okay.
3 books come out
Uh,
within like an 8-month period.
right.
Goodness.
That's what I
Now I'm
remember.
tired. I
Mhm.
gotta go.
You
I
know,
gotta go to
I
sleep.
Now, where did you find all the time and energy?
Where did I find this time and energy? I'm serious. I'm asleep now. I'm just right now. I'm talking and I'm sound asleep because I've been tired for a minute. And in the midst of this minute, I finished Where the False Gods Dwell was, and I also take myself on different types of writing journey adventures.
Yes.
Um, and maybe one day I'll learn that maybe just write the book and not try to challenge this, that, and the other. Just get the book written. But no, it's not fun. But then it's torture. But anyway, this book is my first book where I have 3 POVs. So we have 3 different characters that are,
Right.
carrying the story. And none of the POV characters are Catherine Dunham, but I want to explain how she plays such a pivotal role in the story. It's
okay.
set in 1935, starts in Chicago. The initial or the first character that you're introduced to is a 19-year-old pickpocket, street worker in a way,
Mhm.
and her boyfriend. And she has made up her mind that she's going to change her life, get on the right path. So the right path for her is to get out of Chicago and go to Kenosha. And if you know the Midwest, this is like, really?
Is it
This is your
Wisconsin?
plan?
Just about to say
Isn't
Kenosha.
isn't it
Kenosha,
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about to now see now. I know of Kenosha, but I don't know enough about Kenosha to be like, I'm going to Kenosha. So you're gonna
Well,
have to fill me in.
there's
What
no
part of
reason.
Kenosha?
I mean, well, back in 1935, Chicago was Chicago, but Chicago was also in the midst of recovering from the stock market crash.
Okay. Yeah.
Prohibition had ended. Gangsters
Yeah.
were
Mhm.
huge during this time period. I mean,
Right.
the
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
Capone, the battles between his group and the other group from the North and South Side wars. And then in the midst of all that were the black policy gamblers. And that was that whole thing. Uh, the Binga Bank was already done for by 1935, but nonetheless, there were insurance companies that were put together by black people. You still had people like Mr. Abbott, who was in charge of the Chicago Defender. And the reason I mention this is it's almost like 3 pockets of money are represented in the story. There's the
Okay.
19-year-old girl from Chicago who she owes people some stuff. She has some issues. She's trying to make a move, and that move connects her to a wealthy socialite, a black socialite by the name of Vivian Jean. Can't remember her name right now because I'm working on a new book, and that means the
that
names go
means
out the
the
window.
previous book, I get it too. The memories
It's
fade
gone.
for the book that was.
Yeah,
And
I don't
plus,
always remember
there's
my
a
character's name, so I'm not even gonna make fun of you. I get
yeah,
it.
well, and
Thank
plus there's
you.
like a 1 year window between when you turn the book in and when it comes out. So
And then
then
you
you've
start
got
working on a new
right.
project
Then
because
you're
I'm
working
a
on a new book. So,
Yep.
because
and the
I'm
new
a
book
I have
requires
I'm
all of
about
your
to start
attention.
working on a new book, but fortunately, my new book is going to be a nonfiction, so I don't have to remember names.
Yeah,
you
I'm
don't
doing.
yes
I'm doing nine.
you
I'm
know
working on
nonfiction is just
nonfiction.
as hard as anything else. It's not
I didn't say it was going to be easier.
nonfiction
I'm
is
just saying I don't have to remember names.
you
That's
don't have
all.
to
Yeah,
remember the
yeah.
names.
Nonfiction is
I
not
put
character driven generally, unless it's about somebody. But it's not character driven, so it's more
yeah,
subject
and
driven.
and this one, Where the False Gods Dwell, is definitely character driven. We have Vivian Jean, the socialite. I mentioned the pickpocket, and then the other character is based in Jamaica, and she's a labor union activist. And in 1935, the labor union was a huge deal in Jamaica because of the horrendous conditions at the sugar plantations, at the rum factories, at the banana plantations. But my story sort of hones in on the sugar plantations. All of the sugar plantations eventually led to rum because, they go hand in hand. Rum is pretty much made from sugar, or molasses, or the process, if you will. So these three women end up, and Vivian Jean is besties with Catherine Dunham. Catherine Dunham in 1935 is like 24 years old, but she's already, in 1932, she had her first dance company that performed at the Chicago World's Fair, and it was called the Negro Ensemble or something like that. And she and Vivian Jean are buddies. And at that time period, Catherine Dunham was attending the University of Chicago as working on her anthropology degree, which I found fascinating. I just did not know she'd done this. I should have known because as a dance history person, when I was in college, and I actually met her when she was later in her life, because I was a dancer in Chicago and New York for a while there. But what this, how Catherine contributes to the story is that everybody ends up going on her exhibition or her expedition with her to Jamaica and the cockpit country. Also, in that cockpit country, there is a maroon village called Akumpong. And I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. But the maroon people are known for, they were slaves, 16th, 17th, it's about 1700s if my history brain is working. And what they did was defy the British government or anybody who was trying to enslave them. And they relocated and fought from the hills of cockpit country and remained, and actually ended up being so good at battling and taking care of their business that they remained free and formed governments and things like that, or some things with the, or cut deals, I'll put it that way, with the British government. So the cockpit people and the maroon people were there. And what Catherine Dunham's goal, her goal was, she wanted to choreograph works that incorporated the true movements of the African people. And those movements were best found in the Caribbean because of the proximity and the closeness. I mean, if the slave route, if you will, from the west coast of Africa went to the Caribbean and Brazil and along the coast for the most part. So a lot of those authentic dances, which were a part of the maroon culture because they did not assimilate with anybody for 200 years or more that came from Africa, fought, went in the hills, hung out, and continued, their world and their life. So that's what Catherine Dunham wanted to do, was to go study these authentic dance movements and forms and all of this fabulous stuff, so that she could bring that energy back to America. I have a passage in the book, was, because she was working with artists like Martha Graham, Ruth St. Dennis, and if you're a dance history person, all these names will mean something. But all of those dancers and choreographers and beautiful choreography were white, and and she wanted to bring the true African movement into her choreography. And so she went on an anthropological journey. And frankly, in real life, that journey took her from Jamaica to Haiti. She spent most of her time, I think it was about 2 or 3 years, in Haiti, studying dance, the culture, the history, storytellers, and all that. So we get a good sense of that in this story. But these other 3 women are pivotal, and as POV characters, their journey, their sisterhood, their struggles, they sort of just merge and come together in a way that I hope is impactful for the reader. And not to give away, but there's some drama, there's some thrills, there's information that I think is meaty about the time period, about how things operated. There's some love stories in there that I really enjoyed writing and exploring. I have Vivian Jean, part of her story arc has to do with her second husband. Her first husband died, and her second husband was her first husband's younger brother. So she and so there's complications.
Keep it in the family.
Well,
keep it in the family.
That's biblical.
Yes, absolutely. But also keep in mind that during the 1930s, women did not have a lot of things that they could do on their own, especially if they were part of society. If you couldn't be an independent woman without a trust fund or daddy or husband.
Yeah, women were defined by basically who they were married to.
Who they were married to, except if you were a pickpocket. And the 19-year-old, she has more wherewithal and control, or so she thinks, of her life than the wealthy Vivian Jean. And then in Jamaica, you have a woman who works like many women and men did during that time period. If they weren't working in the sugar plantations or out in the fields someplace, they were working at the hotels, because it was still a tourist destination during that time period. So she was a hotel worker, but her energy, her love, her compassion was to the labor union movement, and her passion for that is a part of the story and her backstory that is pretty interesting. I enjoyed digging into it, so to speak. So all these gals get together and they end up in Jamaica, and they're just having a big fun, not really, sometimes fun, sometimes love, sometimes this, and then stuff starts to mess everything up even more.
Okay. I do want to clarify something for the audience, because not everybody knows some of the acronyms that people use. So you mentioned POV, and that stands for point of view. And so that means that you probably have a chapter with the name. Is that how you do it? Like each chapter has the name of a person and their point of view.
Because especially I mentioned, and I do write every character in first person.
Okay.
Present tense, so it's a lot of I, but at the beginning of a chapter, it'll tell you who that character is.
Right.
And of course, part of the only time you don't know the character is the prologue. Oh, you can't see
that.
No.
that's white. It's white paper. But I do understand what you're saying. Now, I remember, and I'm pretty sure it was you, and we've had 850 guests. So sometimes they merge together. But
Okay.
um, I believe it was you who said in part of your research when you were doing in the history that when you go back and you're researching that dissertations were a good source
Oh, yes.
of
Yes.
information. Was that you?
Yes. Well, I definitely use dissertations. I
Okay.
also, and you can find that on, of course, I can't remember anything now, but I my research process is sort of a merging animal that is always moving because when you dive into research, you never know what you're going to run into. So you got to put it in a little corner, and that corner is my Scrivener file so that I can access it when that story opportunity presents itself. So dissertations are lovely. Black newspapers, just excellent resources. Then, of course, there are places like the Schomburg Library in New York
No.
where I've spent time. There are places like the Library of Congress where I did a lot of my research over time. As a adjunct professor at Drexel University, I am able to access some wonderful online support through things, databases like ProQuest, and also just having that university access to information and, archival information. And that's very great. Another big thing is reading nonfiction books. I have a monster of a book that I'm using for the book I'm working. Well, I have several books for this new project, a work in progress, sometimes called a WIP. Um, that manuscript, one book, it's called At Canaan's Edge, and it was written about 20 years ago. It focuses on 3 to 5 years of Martin Luther King's journey. I think from 1963, it might go 1963 to 1968, if that long. Um, it's 1,000 pages or 33 hours of an audio tape. So the
Yeah.
thickest book I've ever seen in my
Have
whole
that
life.
book. I have that
Oh,
book.
oh, okay.
I actually
So
have, I
you
haven't
know.
read it. I have the three books in that series. What's the name of the
Oh, wow.
author? I can't call it right
I'm
now.
I'm gonna I think I'm gonna try and grab
It's
it
a
real
white
fast.
author. It's a
Yes,
white
yes,
author.
definitely. But it won
He
a Pulitzer. I think it won a
yeah,
Pulitzer.
his three books on the civil rights era were are the most among the most comprehensive and detailed.
Oh my goodness. Oh
I
my
mean, just
goodness.
a wealth of information. I it's
I think
and I got through the first one. I bought the other two. They're all like 700 to 1,000 pages. A lot of
Yep.
the pages are footnotes though in the back or end notes, but
Mm-hmm.
they are massive books, and they're
I'm
not so.
gonna
There's
even.
just not light reading.
No,
It's
it's not.
it's not.
No, it's not. No,
It's
it's not.
heavy reading in terms of just the details. So
The
I
details
still
and
plan
the
on
amazing.
reading them, but I haven't. I just every time I go to start, I get to the same place and stop. It's
It is daunting.
like reading the
The
Bible. Sometimes I'll get to a certain point. If I'm doing a beginning to end read, I'll get to
Mhm.
a certain point, and then I'll say, okay, I'll come back to it. And then it's
So you
always
don't
the
come back.
same point. And then I don't get back to it. And that's not good. But but, but
Bless your
some
honesty.
books are just so big. And I read
This
so
one's big,
much.
but I read when I do research, I really have to do it strategically because otherwise you can get in that rabbit hole.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I have I did a huge outline on this book and sort of dove into different moments in history that I really wanted to expand upon. So, for
Taylor
example,
Branch. I remember the man's
yeah,
name.
Taylor Branch.
Taylor Branch. It just came
There
to
he
me. I
is.
wanted to get it out before I forgot. Taylor Branch.
I hear you.
His
Yeah,
books
Taylor Branch
are
at
amazing.
Canaan's Edge.
Yes.
Canaan apostrophe S.
Yes.
Um,
And I think that's
the,
book three, isn't it?
I
There
don't
are
know.
three books. the three
This
books.
is just one big book with over 1,000 pages.
I
And
think
as I
that's
said,
the
I also
third
have the
one.
audio book, and it's 33 hours.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So which
so
did
what
you
I do
do?
is go back. I
Which
did both.
oh,
I
okay.
also have it. I have an ebook. I have the hard copy. I have the audio.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
according to my mood, where I am, what I need
Okay.
to do, um, and it's almost critical to have the ebook so you can go to different time periods because the opening there's a section of my story that has to do with the march in Mississippi in 1966, in the summer of 1966, and it was for the voters registration march, and so I have a lot of SNCC people involved in that. But the story takes place in America
Okay.
and in London.
Oh, okay.
So I
Okay.
yeah, so in 1960s, and a big chunk of it takes place in 1966, and that's
Mm.
on one level. I'll give you some tidbits from the time period. It on the cover of Time magazine in April, I believe, in 1966, the story was Swinging London. It was all about the energy and all of the stuff. I mean, it was just Twiggy, the Beatles. There's a movie called Alfie. Jimi Hendrix was playing at a place. It was all of that sort of action and energy and fashion and modeling and all that sort of stuff. That was London. In
Okay.
London at that, yes, ma'am.
We didn't run out
Oh,
of time, girl.
okay. But see, I will talk. I don't even look at the clock. I told you I was asleep. I'm
Yeah,
sleepwalking, sleep
Rhonda's the
talking.
timekeeper. We play different roles.
And I was only talking about that
I'm
new book,
aware of the time, but
not
Rhonda
this
will
one.
say we're at the end of the time.
I
Hey,
tell you
I
what, because
you gotta have it.
the book sounds amazing, and you've given it so much action. So hold the book up one more time. I did put
Oh,
the
I
link in
do.
the chat so everybody can go ahead and get the book. And oh my goodness, my eyes are bad. I didn't bring my glasses with me, but I
Where
love
the false gods dwell, and it's me, Denny
Where the
S.
false
Bryce.
gods
Please
dwell.
buy this book. This book is one of my favorites of the 6 I've written, and I want people to read it. So grab it and then tag me and tell me good things about it. Don't tag me if it's bad, but
Okay.
tag me if it's good.
Hey, you're a
Okay,
person after my own heart.
just got to be honest with it. You
Yeah,
at least
know.
be nice,
good
right?
news. You want good news. So
Yes,
anyway,
I do. I do.
thank you so much for being back on the show. Congratulations
Oh, I
again
love
on
it.
your new book.
And you'll get me again if I ever get this other book done.
Okay, I keep track. I keep track of what you're doing. So I'll reach
Thank
out
you.
to you when the time
Okay.
comes.
All
Okay,
righty.
take
Thanks for
care.
having me.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
It's always a blast. Thank you, Denny. Congratulations.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.